has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground.
New possibilities are opening up for scientific cooperation between countries.
1-0-0. Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Discovery, Roger. Go for deploy.
Everybody in the shuttle program, the crew is go for launch.
Roger. Nice to be in orbit.
We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
Along with JAXA astronaut Kimiya Yui and Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov arrived here at the Space Center. You can see a lot of the excitement here at the launch site as we head into tomorrow's first launch attempt. And you're looking at their ride, this SpaceX Dragon spacecraft called Endeavour that sits atop a Falcon 9 rocket. This is a live look at Launch Complex 39A. Good afternoon. I'm Steve Seisloff from NASA's Office of Communications, and we're here to discuss the pre-launch activities and reviews heading into tomorrow's launch attempt. We are targeting tomorrow, July 31st at 12:09 p.m. for Eastern Time for liftoff to the International Space Station. Once there, the crew of 4 will maintain the orbiting laboratory and take part in experiments and research. Joining us today to talk more about the pre-launch activities and some of the reviews that took part today, we have Ken Bowersox, Associate Administrator for NASA's Space Operations Mission Directorate, Steve Stich, Manager of NASA's Commercial Crew Program, Dana Weigel, Manager of NASA's International Space Station Program, Sergey Krikalev, who is the Deputy Director for Human Spaceflight with Roscosmos, and Naoki Nagai, Program Manager of the International Space Station for the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA. And joining us remotely by phone, we have William Gerstenmaier, the Vice President of Build and Flight Reliability at SpaceX. We're going to have opening remarks in just a minute from our panelists, and then we will take questions from reporters here in the room and on the phone lines. And a reminder to the reporters on the phone lines, *1 will get you joined into the queue, and *2 if you want to leave the queue. And with that, I'll hand it to you, Ken.
Thanks, Steve. Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for being with us here today. We really appreciate your interest in our work in low Earth orbit, where every day we're building the knowledge base that will take us from the surface of the Earth to low Earth orbit, out to the moon and onto Mars. And while we're doing that, we're gathering knowledge each day that benefits us here on the surface of the Earth. I was really happy to be able to meet with the Crew-11 team here earlier today. Both Zena and Oleg are first-time flyers, and Kimiya and Mike are experienced veterans, but they were all really excited about having the opportunity to go up and visit the International Space Station. I think the rookies were probably most excited, but the experienced folks are ready to go too. The last couple of weeks has been really busy for our whole team, our commercial partners, our international partners, representatives from our ISS and commercial crew program. The work was summarized last Friday at a flight readiness review where we all got together, looked through the results of all the different reviews across the agency preparing for this mission. Then across the weekend, we had a flight readiness or a static fire in preparation for the flight. Then today, we had a launch readiness review where we went through all the different exceptions that had come up prior to the review and made sure that everybody's ready and focused for the launch here in the next 24 hours or so. It's so impressive to watch our international and commercial government team work as they prepare for a mission. They focus on the work that needs to be done, and their priority is flying the mission safely. I'm so eager to see this mission launch, but as always, we launch when we're ready. With a little luck, we'll see a launch soon, and we'll also see a crew come home soon. But be patient with us. Let's make sure that the vehicle's ready to go, and that our team is really certain before we hit the button. And now I'd like to pass it over to Steve Stich so he can share more of the details.
Thanks, Ken, and it's an honor to be here representing the commercial crew team, and really appreciate your interest in human spaceflight. Today was a big day. As Ken said, we had two big reviews, our launch readiness review with SpaceX, and then following that review was the Dragon mission management team. Our NASA team has been working side by side with SpaceX for this whole flow, but in particular really closely over the last 2 weeks. And the NASA team pulled go to proceed. SpaceX pulled go to proceed toward launch tomorrow. So we'll get into the countdown early tomorrow morning, about 8 hours prior to launch, and press up the COPVs on the composite overwrap pressure vessels on the Falcon 9 and get into the countdown. As Ken said, the launch is really close to noon, 12:09 p.m. Eastern tomorrow on Thursday. Sets us up for a docking. It's a little longer phasing than we typically have. It's about 39 hours of phasing from launch to dock. That's just the way the orbital mechanics works out for this particular opportunity. And we would dock Saturday, August the 2nd, right around 3 a.m. Eastern time. We have backup days on August the 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd, and those have various docking times associated with them. So we're in a real good sequence of opportunities right now. The weather is looking really good for tomorrow. The launch weather, only a 10% probability of violation. We're early in the day, and so there's really not much of a chance of any precipitation or showers here at the Kennedy area for the launch site. The abort weather also looks very favorable tomorrow as well, with winds and waves all along the ascent track being within limits. We'll watch showers or thunderstorms, potential forecast of those in the staging area. We'll watch that very carefully. And then a little later in the week, the weather gets a little bit worse. Still good here at the Kennedy Space Center, but along the ascent track, we'll have a frontal boundary that'll be there. And so the winds and waves will come up, and so that's why really tomorrow is our best opportunity. Gerst will talk more about it, but we had the dry dress on Monday where the crew got into Dragon, put Dragon through its paces. Really didn't have any issues at all with Dragon. Of course, static fire was aborted at 57 seconds due to a ground sensor problem that Bill will talk more about. And so we moved the static fire 1 day later, and we're in the process of finishing all the reviews for the data from that static fire, which happened yesterday. So far, all the data looks good from the vehicle. Bill will talk more about it, but we had to R&R replace one of the engine controllers on engine 5. It had some anomalous signatures, and so we replaced that. We've checked that out, and it's good for flight. As you know, this is a really important mission for us. It's our 6th flight of Dragon Endeavour. We worked very hard with SpaceX to complete all the reuse activities for this vehicle. We had certified the vehicles, the Dragons, for only 5 flights, and now we've completed all that work, and we're really ready to go. Pretty clean static fire, really nothing other than the R&R of the engine controller we're working on. Bill will talk more about that. I really want to thank the NASA and SpaceX team for all their hard work. From the agency FRR, which was held on Friday, July 25th. That FRR, we had a couple of exceptions coming out of there. One was what we would call a non-standard open work on Dragon. Our team focused a lot on the reuse, and so we had a few items to go through and close out. And then we wanted to take one look at the launch pad. There's a tunnel that goes out to the launch pad. There's a couple of high voltage electrical lines that go to the pad. We wanted to inspect those based on some work that was done on the roadway above, and all that checked out just fine. It was great to interface with the crew recently. You can tell the crew they're excited, they're ready to go. In particular, Mike Fincke was our commercial crew program rep for many years when we were developing Dragon and Starliner, and so for us, it's just a real exciting time to see him go fly. Once we get docked, we'll have a shorter handover, and Dana will talk a little bit more about that. The first set of undock opportunities for Crew-10 would be on the 6th of August. We have done an inspection of the Dragon vehicle. We look at the thermal protection system. We've gone through and inspected that vehicle on orbit, and it looks really good to come home. But we obviously have to get Crew-11 there docked safely first. In closing, it's great to be here today. It's really exciting to get into our 12th launch with Commercial Crew. And I can't thank the team enough. They've worked extremely hard to get through all this reuse. It's been a busy year for us in Commercial Crew, swapping capsules back on Crew-10 and then now with the reuse work. I'd like to also thank Dana and the ISS program, our international partners, all the agencies here in the country that work with us, United States Coast Guard, the Space Force, and the entire team. And with that, I'll hand it over to Dana.
Thank you very much, Steve. Let's see, and thank you all for joining us today to learn more about the Crew-11 and the ISS mission. For a launch on July 31st, we'll have a docking at the Node 2 Zenith port, and as Steve said, that'll be August 2nd around 3 a.m. Eastern Time. We're looking forward to the arrival of Crew-11 with NASA astronaut Zena, Cardman, and Mike Fincke, JAXA astronaut Kimiya Yui, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov. This will be the first space flight for both Zena and Oleg, the fourth for Mike, and the second for Kimiya. But this will be the first time that any of them has flown on a Dragon vehicle. And this morning when I saw them, they were all smiles, really excited and ready to leave the Earth. Let's see, once Crew-11 gets there, we've got 3 full days of handover between our 2 crews. They'll cover safety critical items, review procedures on board, and they'll do a little bit of ISS familiarization. When Crew-10 leaves, first opportunity being August 6th, Johnny Kim, who's been on board for a few months, will continue that handover and familiarization with Crew-11. Crew-10 has been pretty busy on board this month. We successfully completed the Axiom 4 private astronaut mission and just splashed down a couple weeks ago on the West Coast. They've also been busy doing some work on board, repairing some life support systems. We had some faulty components that had to be replaced in our water processor assembly and with the toilet that's on the U.S. segment. Now that we've done that work, that puts us in a great configuration on board to accept the additional crew that we'll have with us for handover. It's not fun not having a working toilet and having this many crew members sharing one, so we're happy we have that back. Let's see, looking ahead, we have a busy fall in front of us, a lot of flights and a lot of activity for Crew-11. August 21st, we're planning to launch the SpaceX 33 cargo resupply mission. That's a unique flight for us. It's carrying a reboost kit in the Dragon trunk. That reboost kit has a number of propellant tanks and thrusters, and it will be used to do altitude management and reboost on space station between September and December of this year. And that helps us because we have a joint goal to conserve and store propellant on the Russian segment to kind of build up our supplies there. Shortly after that, middle of September, we've got the Northrop Grumman or NG-23 mission. We accelerated that flight to help with resupply at a station. That was in response to Northrop finding spacecraft damage for their NG-22 vehicle and realizing that we can't fly that this year. And then in mid-October, we've got a new cargo vehicle flying, the HTV-X. That is a vehicle built by JAXA. It has a lot of cargo carrying capability, and we're really excited to have that as part of the cargo resupply fleet for station. As you may know, this year marks a huge milestone for space station operations. In November, with Crew-11 on board, we'll be celebrating 25 years of continuous human presence on board the space station. Once Crew-11 gets there, we will have had 290 people visit space station from over 26 different countries. Over those 25 years, we've had some remarkable achievements. We've advanced science in many different fields, and we've developed critical technologies that will help us do longer spaceflight missions as we work towards our lunar longer duration missions and also missions to Mars. The research and the commercial development that we've done on board space station have also laid a foundation for being able to do commercial low Earth orbit destinations in the future. I'm looking forward to the launch, to having Crew-11 on board and to seeing the amazing things that they will accomplish during their expedition. And with that, I will hand it over to Sergey.
This morning we met the crew. They're in good mood. They're ready to fly. And Oleg Platonov, our cosmonaut, is flying on board of this mission. It's going to be his first flight. But we know that he is in good hands. And Mike Fincke already flown 3 times, and 2 of them was on Soyuz spacecraft. And he actually veteran of ISS mission. During these 25 years, he was on the station several times. And I know that this crew is very capable, and we are sure that they will be successful flight, docking, and good operation on board. I know that previous crew, and our cosmonaut is also a part of previous crew, Crew-11. They are waiting for this flight because they know that when this flight arrives, it means that time for them to go back is going to be very soon. I think what is important that we continue integrated crew operations, because safety of the crew and reliability of the program is very important for us. We are working together. We are working together not only in space but also here on the ground, providing cargo delivery, managing supply on the station. But everything is done to have successful missions, and integrated crew is part of it. And Dana is mentioning one anniversary of what is going to be this year, and another anniversary we celebrated a few weeks ago, 50th anniversary of Apollo Soyuz mission. We started to work together many years ago, and we still continues. With that, I give floor to you, please.
Thank you for introduction. My name is Naoki Nagai. I'm a JAXA ISS program manager. First, I would like to express my appreciation to NASA and the Commercial Crew Program and the SpaceX and all our colleagues for their dedication to the Crew-11 launch preparations and the continuous ISS operations. This is my honor to be here to speak for a flight tomorrow. Now, as preparation proceeding for launch and return, JAXA is also undertaking all the necessary preparation for JAXA astronauts Kimiya Yui and Takuya Onishi on board. This mission marks the Kimiya's second expedition since his 2015, and with a deep desire to give back to all those who have supported him, he has thrown himself into his training for flight with guts and hard works. During his stay in ISS, Kimiya will carry out a variety of experiments and technology demonstrations. For example, he will carry out a demonstration mission for a more compact and efficient carbon dioxide removal system, which is expected to play a key role in future exploration, Gateway or the pressurized rover on the moon. He will also work toward advancing scientific outcomes and expanding the commercial use of space activities towards the post-ISS era. During his stay, there is another big event. Kimiya captured the Japanese cargo vehicle, HTB, we call Konotori, number 5, at the last flight. But this time, we call HTB-X. That is a new next-generation cargo vehicle. It's scheduled to launch within his stay. I expect him to play a key role in its capture and operations again. Lastly, in this mission, Kimiya will be welcomed to ISS by astronaut Takuya Onishi, who currently serves as the ISS commander. It will be a short moment, but this will be the first such experience in 4 years that 2 Japanese astronauts will be on board ISS at the same time. I believe this dual presence is a result of Japanese continued contribution to ISS operation, almost a quarter-century human presence, and the Kibo 15 years operation successfully. and also the close relationship with international partners here. For the Japanese people, this is seen as a powerful and symbolic moment representing the advancement of science and technology. And also, I believe it will be a moment when we feel closer to space than ever before. It will surely inspire dreams and hope in the Japanese children who will lead the next generation, while also paving the way for Japanese future participation in the Artemis program and beyond. We will continue with the final preparation as we look for the upcoming Crew-11 safe launch and also the Crew-10 safe return. Thank you for today. And I met Kimiya in this morning. He's ready. And we also, in the ground side, is already also ready. So go for Crew-11. Thank you. Back to you, Steve.
Thank you, sir. We're going to go now to William Gerstenmaier.
Thanks, Steve. It's an honor to be here today remotely. You know, we just completed the launch readiness review in advance of the launch tomorrow. This will be our fourth Dragon mission to the space station this year and our fifth overall Dragon mission to date, which is pretty amazing from a Dragon standpoint. You know, launch readiness reviews and crew missions are a time for us to reflect and really double-check our logic and flight rationale. It's not really the meetings themselves, but it's all the activity and all the detailed review by all the partners, all the team members that look at all the data and make sure we're really ready to go fly, that make sure we're ready to go. And then we do the reviews, and that's kind of the culmination and the wrap-up of that data. You know, during Monday's static fire of Crew-11 Falcon 9 rocket, we auto-aborted at T-minus 57 seconds, and that was caused by an error in the transporter erector cradle arm indication. The arms performed nominally. They did exactly what they were supposed to go do, but the abort was caused by essentially a false sensor. We corrected that. We adjusted it ahead of yesterday's successful static fire. That all went well. We also had a chance to use this as a learning experience. We went back and reviewed all our alarms, all our alerts, all our calibrations, all the indications to make sure there was nothing else out of kilter or out of skew that we needed to protect for. You know, I think this all worked as designed on the second static fire, and I think it also showed the value of a static fire. We would not like to have an abort while the crew's on board and we're offloading propellant. We want to make sure that when we go through the countdown, we're ready to launch when we get there. So that static fire on Monday proved to be a very advantageous static fire for us and actually improved our learning and made us even better prepared for the launch tomorrow. You know, the temperatures at the Cape have been pretty warm, and they've delayed some of our static fires slightly. So what we're going to be able to do is we're going to load some of our gases a little bit earlier before the crew gets out there, before we do propellant loading, and that'll allow us to essentially have a smoother loading going forward. So we'll do that during the cool of the night. We'll get essentially the rocket ready for propellant load and then do our normal activities. It won't affect the timeline for the crew. It won't affect the timeline for propellant loading, but it'll keep us moving forward. You know, spaceflight is really humbling and difficult, and we always need to listen to our hardware, our data, and the real-world lessons to ensure we're really ready to fly safely. You know, spaceflight's not tolerant of errors, and we only fly when we're ready. You know, we did extra checks on Dragon. We reviewed the post-flight data from both Crew-9 and Axiom 4. We reviewed the Dragon data and the Dragon interactions with Falcon during the static fire. We looked at all the ground systems and the hardware, including Cape systems. We carefully looked and updated the booster for Crew-11 as the booster last flew on Axiom 4, and that gave us a good chance to see how this booster and engines operate. You know, we'll continue to carefully review activities and double-check everything as we move forward. You know, this is the sixth flight for Dragon, for this particular Dragon capsule. It's comparable to previous Dragons, but, you know, it's also important to note that we're flying several upgrades. We have a new drogue parachute design that is more effective and will help with parachute deploy. We did extensive testing to make sure that that's ready, to make sure the drogues work correctly. We have an improved heat shield structure, which I think you've heard about before. And we also have an improved IVA suit that has more mobility, and Mike Fincke will be testing that for us on this flight. So even though it looks like it's the sixth flight Dragon, there's still lots of improvements, still lots of things that we're learning and improving to make things better from an overall standpoint. This will be the third flight of the Falcon 9 booster, which previously launched Axiom 4, as I said before, and a Starlink mission. This first stage booster will also be returning to landing zone 1 at the Cape after it completes its mission of delivering the crew safely to orbit. You know, after the static fire, an engine controller failed on engine 5. The engine controller was fine during the static fire, but after it failed, we are an RDEC controller. We checked it all out. We reviewed the data with the teams and with NASA. The failure signature we've kind of seen before, and we've also evaluated the consequences if this failure were to occur in flight, and it would not have a problem for us if it occurred later in flight. I think the teams are ready to go fly. We'll continue to double check things and move forward. You know, SpaceX would like to thank NASA and all the partners on this mission, you know, especially Roscosmos and JAXA, for their trust and close collaboration with us as we prepare for this Crew-11 launch. Crew launches are special. We'll make sure we're ready to go fly. We trust our partners, and hopefully our partners trust us, and we'll have a successful flight. We look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to all of our panelists for their remarks. We're going to start with questions here in the room. For each outlet, quick reminder to ask one question and state your name and affiliation, and we're going to start on the right side with Bill.
Hey, thanks a lot. Bill Harwood with CBS, and Sergey, it's great to see you here again. Dana, question for you. Where does it stand in your thinking about possibly having to reduce crew size, reduce cargo flights as part of the reconciliation and budget process here, which is opaque to me, but I'm sure you guys are figuring this out. But is that something that could happen as early as Crew-12? Are you looking at going lower than 3 people if you ultimately have to do that? Or are you hoping to keep it at 4 all the way through? And just where we stand.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we'd stay at 4 crew if we're continuing to do the normal mission objectives that we have on our plate today. With the amount of science and research we do, certainly takes 4 crew. We're looking at a range of scenarios. So as you know, it's very dynamic right now in terms of what we might see in the budget, what we might end up with. So we're looking at the entire spectrum. I think the earliest we would do anything and what we've evaluated is Crew-12. We don't have to answer that right now. We don't have to make that decision. We can actually wait pretty late to make a crew size smaller if we need to. In terms of cargo vehicles, we're well supplied through this fall. So in the short term, I'd say through the end of this year, the beginning of 26, I mean, things look pretty normal in terms of what we have planned for the program. But we're evaluating things, and we'll be ready to adjust when a budget is passed and when we figure out where we really land.
Next, let's go here on the left side for Will.
Yeah, hi, Will Robinson-Smith with Spaceflight Now. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us. Question for Mr. Krikalev and Ken Bowersox. Obviously, this is the 25th anniversary of the space station, and there's a lot to celebrate, a lot of work left to do. But I wonder, as the station is coming to its end, how are the 2 agencies kind of thinking about the future of cooperation in low Earth orbit once the ISS is ultimately retired? Thanks.
Sergey, you want to go first? Or?
Go ahead.
Okay. First, I learned a tradition from our Russian colleagues that we never celebrate an anniversary before it really gets here, and we still have a few months before we're going to be able to celebrate the 25th anniversary, but we're all looking forward to it. What I'll say is it's very important for us to work together as we reach the end of the International Space Station. The station was built so that it requires the participation of all of our partners, especially Russia and America, to operate it every day and to bring it home. So we will be working closely together to coordinate everything that we do in the final days of ISS and working together to maximize the utility of ISS until we finally bring it home into the ocean. After that, there's still lots of things that we can discuss. Both Russia and America are looking at our own different space stations. The Ross, the Russian space station, we're looking at new commercial space stations in America, and there's lots lots of ways that we could still continue a partnership going forward if the circumstances allow us to do that. And we've seen the value of working together. It started with Apollo-Soyuz 50 years ago. We've seen the value of strong partners as we work in LEO today, and I think we'll see that there's value in the future. Sergey, anything to add?
I probably will add that 50 years ago, people start to think that if we are flying to space, we need to be able to help each other. And I think if we are going to fly in the future together or in different stations, but we are thinking about being able to help each other in case of necessity of rescue. So there is no final decision, but of course, what Ken already said, that we have to work together to return back station in a safe way, safe mode, and we are working together to provide it right now, because as I said, even managing fuel capacity of the station, cargo capacity, that's integrated crew is working on the ground. So we are working together, and I hope we will work together in future.
Thank you. We're going to take one more question here in the room, and then we will go to the phones and go to the right.
Zoe Rosenstein with NSF. This one's probably for Steve. So obviously 1094 had quite a few issues it was dealing with, the leaks and the TVC on Axiom 4. Have you guys been following that and the solutions that SpaceX did ahead of the Crew-11 booster? And maybe, Bill, one additional question, was, are there any plans beyond this mission to use LZ-1 and 2 again, or will, after that, everything move to the pad landing zones?
Yeah, I'll start. This particular booster, since it's assigned to our commercial crew flight, we follow that booster through its entire life. So the Starlink flight that Bill talked about, the first flight, and then the build up to the Axiom mission, we followed the liquid oxygen leak that we had prior to Axiom 2. We swapped out a feed line and a sensor, and we followed that work and looked at the pedigree of all that hardware that was being installed. Also, we had a TVC that was responding in a way that was different than any TVC we had seen in the fleet. We worked with SpaceX hand in hand as they swapped out various components prior to the Axiom 2 flight, or Axiom 4 flight, and then also we swapped that entire engine out because there was a lower wire harness that SpaceX wanted to take a look at. So we followed all that work. So we have followed the pedigree of this booster all the way, starting with its build at Hawthorne, its testing at McGregor, and every single flight. That's just the way we handle every single mission to make sure we're really ready to go fly. And so partnership with SpaceX has been great, even up until replacing this common controller on Engine 5. We worked with SpaceX hand in hand as they swapped that out and checked it out. So, and I'll let Bill answer the next part of the question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We have you.
We have you.
Okay. Prior to Axiom 4, we ensured that we had fixed both the oxidizer leak that showed up, and we also ensured that we had fixed the TVC problem. What's really neat about this partnership was NASA could kind of watch us as we prepared and fixed both of those problems. So they got to see us work in real time to get both of those problems fixed and then go fly. And as you can see from the Axiom 4 flight, or the evidence of it from Axiom 4 flight, was those worked perfectly fine. They worked extremely well. But we learned a lot from both of those. So then NASA can then see those as we go into this next flight. So again, I think that teaming relationship between NASA and the second set of eyes are really good, and really helps us to kind of, keep improving. And there's a tremendous advantage of us flying more flights. We fly a lot of Starlink flights, we fly the Axiom flights, et cetera. And every one of those flights is a chance for us to learn. And when we can learn something and then provide that back, we can actually provide more reliable cargo and more reliable launch for the crew missions that come up. So, again, I think that activity has been extremely well followed, and we have very solid rationale for both of those and the new problems that have arisen. In terms of landing, this will be our last landing on Landing Zone 1. We then plan to retire Landing Zone 1, but we'll still continue to use Landing Zone 2 at the Cape.
Thank you. We're going to go over to the phones now. Reminder for those on the phones, star 1 gets you into the question queue, star 2 takes you out. And we're going to start with Marcia Dunn.
My question is for you, Sergey. I was hoping you could provide an update on the space station air leak on the Russian side of the space station. Is it still there? Is it better or worse than before? Do you have any repairs upcoming planned? And what's your latest on what may be causing this leak? Thank you.
Leak still continues. We keep searching for the leak and repair the leak. And recent repair actually reduced leak rate significantly. For the period of time, we were even thinking that we finally found the last crack and repair it, but obviously on a long period of time, we see that leak still continues. But it reduced significantly. And most important, we are working together with specialists, and we brought together engineers and scientists from Russian side, from US side, on cracks propagation, on intergranular corrosion. All these scientists are working together to find the root cause of this crack. It's important for all of us for the future design, for future station, to be sure that we will not have a similar situation in the future. But for now, we are managing to keep crew safe. We developing together procedure how to deal with it to be sure that crew is in safe configuration when we do all these repairs.
And next we'll go one more to the phone, then come into the room. Kenneth Chang.
Hi, thank you. This is for Steve Stich and maybe Dana Weigel. So at one of the last news conferences, you mentioned that you might be extending the crew rotations from 6 months to 8 months, but that was pending finishing a certification of Dragon for 210 days. And could you give us an update on that?
Yeah, I can start, and then I'll let Dana add. Yeah, we are looking at extending the duration of the dock duration for Dragons to get the missions to be a little longer. We completed all the certification work for Dragon reuse, and now we're starting to get the data in from SpaceX on what it would mean for the vehicle to be in orbit a little longer. And so it'll take us a couple of months to go through that data. And then once we do that, we can extend the duration per whatever Dana needs if we need the 8-month mission. We've done some work already in this area. We had a 7-month mission already on Crew-9. So we don't think there's anything that would stand out, but we want to go double check things like leak sizes, seals in particular. The paint will degrade a little bit over time. The paint's important to keep the thermal properties of the vehicle where we want them to be. We want to go double check that, and there's other items we'll go double check for their life. Fans will run a little bit longer. The structure will be subjected to a few more thermal cycles. We need to go through all that data, and once we do that, then we can step up to the 8-month mission per whatever the ISS program needs.
Yeah, I would just add that we're looking at that right now for the Dragon flights, and so we are looking at the potential to extend this current flight, Crew-11, and as Steve said, there's a few more months worth of work to do first. We are not talking about extending or changing the duration of our Boeing flights at this point in time. We've got enough experience with Dragon that we're at a good point in time to do that with that vehicle.
Thank you. And coming back here into the room, we're going to go to Miles.
Hi, thanks. A question for Steve Stich, Miles Dorn with CBS News. The reduction in workforce at NASA that we've all been hearing about lately, what does that look like specifically within the commercial crew program? How has the program been impacted by that? And how is this going to impact the number of people that you have available who can do the inspections and product assurance actions of the commercial providers?
Yeah, very good question. So first of all, for this flight, I would say we have had our entire team. Most people that have chosen to take the deferred retirement program have decided to extend a little longer to get through this particular handover. Overall, we'll be looking at in detail the people that have decided to depart us. I would say this flight for me is a little bit bittersweet because every person that's decided to retire, some were going to retire anyway and have decided to take the deferred retirement program. Some have decided to leave a little bit earlier. And so every single person, I think about their contribution to the program over the last 10 years, getting us to flight with Starliner, getting us to flight with SpaceX and Dragon. And so you look at every person, to me, it's personal and it's individual. It's also personal and individual for those people. You know, they've made a choice. And so we'll have to look at the workforce going forward. You know, one good thing about Dragon is a lot of the big upgrades, we have gotten through those this year. We're moving to the West Coast landing, and that work is behind us, all that certification work. Gerst mentioned the fact that we have a new heat shield structure. We've gotten through that certification work, and that's behind us as well. The new drogues are a little stronger. Their deployment is a little more orderly. We've gotten through that work. So we've gotten through a lot of the big things on Dragon, including the 15X reuse or the extended Dragon reuse. So for us, we'll be looking at that and then looking forward to Starliner and then talking about how we move forward. I'll see what Dana has to add.
Now, I would just say, you know, we're in a similar situation with Space Station. We have years and years of expertise, which is great. But on the other hand, when you lose folks or folks choose to leave before the end of the program, it's really hard to rebuild some of that expertise. And so we are tracking along closely with our teams. You know, we fly every day. Even though we're not launching every day, we have humans on board every single day. Every single day is critical to us. And so we keep our team focused. We keep our eye on the target and make sure we're working the top priority issues. At the same time, we're trying to help the workforce through this challenging time. And in some areas, it's actually opened up opportunities where people have wanted to try something else and they've moved around. And so we're keeping our eye on that and really making sure we're making the best use of the skills and the talent that we have on the team.
Thank you. We're going to the phones next, and we're going to Micah Maidenberg.
Yes, good evening. Bill, you had mentioned in your opening remarks about doing some extra checks for Dragon. Were those checks extra relative to earlier flights, and were they prompted by anything in particular or just some of the new hardware and firsts for this mission? Thanks.
There was a combination of both. In cases of some of the thermal protection system, we saw some things on orbit that with both Crew-9 and with Axiom 4 that we wanted to check. So we tested those on the ground extensively before the vehicle returned. And then we took learning from that and we changed the way we built the hardware to make sure that those problems wouldn't occur on future vehicles like Crew-11. So we learned from those previous in-flight things we saw in the previous missions, and then we upgraded for Crew-11. And then we also did a significant amount of testing to ensure that, like, for example, the new drogue chute system we're going to use for this Crew-11 flight, we tested it with a rocket sled to make sure that it would actually deploy correctly. We used that testing to go re-look at some basic design things in the parachute system, and we learned some lanyards could be changed a little bit, and we're going to improve those in going forward. So again, I think the advantage of continuing to learn and continuing to make changes is you get a chance to go back and take a look at your hardware again, look at it with a different set of eyes, and sometimes it helps that maybe a newer engineer gets to look at something that someone else had done before, several years before, and they find some weaknesses in the analysis, and then we get a chance to go either test, validate that analysis, and improve. And I think that's a way you can keep flying reliably and flying safe, is just never assume that the vehicle is ready. You don't get complacent. You continue to keep looking, keep trying to find ways to improve, and continue to test and check and challenge your assumptions you've made before, and just don't assume they're correct. Use the data to drive you in the right direction to make sure your vehicle is really reliable and ready to go fly.
Thank you. And next we're going to go to Stephen Clark.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. Stephen Clark, Ars Technica. Most of my questions have been asked, but I'll take the opportunity to follow up on a question that Gerst answered earlier. What's the long-term plan for LZ-2? Is that going to be retired at some point in the near future or medium-term future as you move those landing pads over to Slick 40 and 39? Thanks.
Yeah, I don't have the exact details of that, but I think we'll use it for the interim here, and then we'll figure out the right time to go move. But we want to return to landing site is a very important capability for Falcon. It saves us the drone ship operations and all the activity associated with catching the booster on a drone ship and returning it. So we want to keep return to landing system capability at the Cape, and we can get you the details of the exact plan for that handover. But we're working with the Cape and with the Kennedy Space Center folks to figure out the right time to make that transition from landing zone 2 to future. But I think we'll stay with landing zone 2 at least near term for a little while, and then look at the right time to move to the other areas.
Thank you. Coming back into the room for the next question. Going to take Will.
Hi, thanks for allowing a second question. This is to Steve Stich. A crew assignment question, if I may. Zena Cardman was pretty quickly reassigned after the shift from Crew-9 to Crew-11. Has Stephanie Wilson also been assigned a mission, and if so, which one? And then secondly, a couple of the folks that are flying on Crew-11 are coming over from Starliner 1. Is there a chance that they, since they have the experience with the Starliner, could be reassigned to that mission again in the future, or would Starliner 1 be a whole new crew with, whether Scott Tingle and Josh Kutrick are still in the loop or not? Thanks.
Yeah, boy, I've been so focused on Crew-11, I haven't thought much about crew assignments. I'm not, would have to get back with you. I'm not sure Stephanie's been assigned yet. I don't really know her status. Mike Fincke will go fly this flight. If you just think about, he'll be on orbit for a while, probably landing in the March timeframe if we extend the flight to 8 months. So hard to say whether he would be on a Starliner 1 or subsequent flight. Those flight assignments, we're still working them out with Starliner. So.
And we're going to go back to the phones for the next question, and that's going to be Ken Kramer.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. We're not there, unfortunately, but we wish you Godspeed and good luck. My question is for Sergey Krikalev. I'd like to know, what has Roscosmos decided about post-2028 operations? I think that's when you're ending Russian operations. But are you thinking about continuing beyond 2028, or are you thinking about commercial stations for Russia? If you could tell us a little bit, would be great. Thank you.
Really, we approved from our government to continue nominal operation till 2028, but it doesn't mean that we are going to abandon station at this time, because nominal operation probably will stop if we wouldn't extend our nominal operation. But anyway, even if we stop nominal operation, it will mean that we need to start deorbit procedure. And working together, we found a profile of deorbiting, and it actually takes about 2 years. So at minimum, we are going to work together until we return station safely back to ocean, and it's going to be not earlier than 2030. It's not supposed to be nominal operation, because the orbit operation is little different, but we think that we would be able to continue manned flight, continue expeditions on the station up to a certain point. And a lot of things will depend on the reliability of the station, because every day we are flying, we keep testing the station, and we studying, learning how long station actually can work. So it will depend on status of the station and technical conditions of the station.
Thank you. And just going to poll the room one more time for our last question. Let's go to Bill.
And Sergey, another question for you. And just because we'd love having an opportunity to ask you the question, things we read about the Russian segment, are filtered through newspapers and translations, and it's hard to ever get specific data that we know is real or whatever. But with regard to the leak, do you have is there any way to tell us how much air escapes through these leaks? Is it a pound or two or a kilogram or two per day, or we don't have any idea what the leak rate might be. And if you know it off the top of your head, thanks.
Much?
0.1 kilogram, your latest rate.
This is the latest.
The latest.
So, as I said, we are working together. We are working together, and actually, the leak rate depends on many conditions. Probably what is interesting for you is what actually size of this crack, but really what we are doing, we are keeping pressure in PRK lower, and the leak rate, how many kilograms we are losing every day, depend on how low pressure is in PRK.
This is at full pressure.
And the pressure 0.1 kilogram per day is 100 gram of air per day is when we have full pressure in PRK. Usually we keep it lower. And for a period of time, we actually were thinking that if we just let all air from PRK leak, we don't have any leak from station anymore. We need to repressurize PRK if we need to have access to this volume on different reason. But actually, last repair was very successful, and it looked like we significantly reduce leak rate.
Thank you. And that is going to wrap up today's news conference. Again, Crew-11 is targeted to lift off tomorrow, Thursday, July 31st at 12:09 p.m. You can join us live at 8 a.m. Eastern Time on NASA Plus and on NASA's social media channels to watch the countdown, to watch the crew head out to their spacecraft, and to watch the liftoff and on to the International Space Station. Thank you so much for your interest in the mission and for your interest in the space program. Hope you have a good night, and go Crew-11.